Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Right here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, England, UK. Well, for a while longer at least. And Abhay and I were just talking about what we feel about this daily reading. So many things happen during the day, and we have so many things to do, and this and that. Especially Abhay, he's doing a lot of service, varieties of service. But when we sit down to do this reading, it's like time stops, and we leave the material world. That's what we're doing every day. And we were just commenting how it would be nice if we could do this 24/7. Of course, can't imitate that, but still, we're getting a taste. So I want to express to you that, I'm getting a lot of notes and encouragement from you all out there in cyberspace, in different places, how much you appreciate having these readings every day and how it's helping you. And I just wanted you to know that I feel the same way, plus times 1,000. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do this wonderful service for you and for Srila Prabhupada and for all of our previous acharyas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he loved the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, and he spoke a very poetic and very profound and pure glorification that I read every day. I know I read it every day as if I'm reading it for the first time, and to tell you the truth, when I read it every time, it is like I'm hearing it for the first time. And that's the way these books are. That's the way all transcendental sound is. It's like in the spiritual world, we hear there's no time and space, and every time something happens, it's like it happens for the first time. Everything is new and fresh, and that's the way I feel about these books and reading them to you. And this is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says about this particular book, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So we've reached Madhya-lila, chapter 2, text 73, and we're right in the middle of the synopsis of the Antya-lila given to us by Krishnadas Kaviraj. He was very very old when he started this book, I think 99 years old or something. And so he wasn't sure if he was going to finish. So he put this synopsis of the Antya-lila toward the beginning of the Madhya-lila, just to make sure that we would get something. So now we're hearing about the uncommon transcendental symptoms of ecstasy that Lord Chaitanya went through while he was staying in Jagannath Puri the last 12 years of his life. So this was very hard to stop yesterday, but we ran out of time. But here we go. Here we are, starting right up where we left off, right in the middle of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstasy. Text 73. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was thus unconscious, he happened to meet the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, he got up and immediately made a tumultuous sound, very loudly declaring, "Now Krishna, the great personality, is present." In this way, because of Krishna's sweet qualities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made different types of mistakes in his mind. Thus, by reciting the following verse, he ascertained the presence of Krishna. Text 74. In the attitude of Radharani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu addressed the gopis. My dear friends, has Krishna, Cupid personified, who has the effulgence of a kadamba flower, who is sweetness itself, the nectar of my eyes and mind, he who loosens the hair of the gopis, who is the supreme source of transcendental bliss and my life and soul, has that Krishna come before my eyes again? Purport. This is another verse from Caitanya-caritämrta 68. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then began to talk like this. Is Cupid personified, presence, with the effulgence and reflection of the kadamba tree? Is he the same person, personified sweetness, who is the pleasure of my eyes and mind, who is my life and soul? Has Krishna actually come before my eyes? 76. As the spiritual master chastises the disciple and teaches him the art of devotional service, so all the ecstatic symptoms of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, including despondency, moroseness, humility, restlessness, joy, endurance, and anger, instructed his body and mind. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed his time. Text 77. He also passed his time reading the books and singing the songs of Chandidas and Vidyapati, and listening to quotations from the Jagannath Vallabha Nataka, Krishna Karnamrita, and Gita Govinda. Thus, in the association of Sarup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed his days and nights chanting and hearing with great pleasure. 78. Among his associates, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed paternal loving affection from Paramananda Puri, friendly affection with Ramananda Roy, unalloyed service from Govinda and others, and humors of conjugal love with Gadadhar, Jagadhananda, and Sarup Damodar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed all these four mellows, and thus he remained obliged to his devotees. Purport. Paramananda Puri is said to have been Uddhava in Vrindavan. His affections with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were on the platform of paternal love. This was because Paramananda Puri happened to be the godbrother of the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Similarly, Ramananda Roy, who was considered an incarnation of Arjuna, and by some an incarnation of Vishaka Devi, enjoyed unalloyed fraternal love with the Lord. Unalloyed personal service was enjoyed by Govinda and others. In the presence of his most confidential devotees, like Gadadhar Pandit, Jagadananda, and Surup Damodar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed the ecstatic conditions of Srimati Radharani in her conjugal relationship with Krishna. Absorbed in these four transcendental mellows, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resided in Jagannath Puri, feeling very much obliged to his devotees. Text 79. Lila Shuka, Bilvamangal Thakur, was an ordinary human being, yet he developed many ecstatic symptoms in his body. What then is so astonishing about these symptoms being manifest in the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? In the ecstatic mood of conjugal love, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on the highest platform. Therefore, all the exuberant ecstasies were naturally visible in his body. Purport. Lila Shuka is Bilvamangal Thakur Goswami. He was a South Indian, a Brahmana, and his former name was Shilana Mishra. When he was a householder, he became attracted to a prostitute named Chintamani, but eventually he took her advice and became renounced. Thus he wrote a book named Shanti Shataka, and later, by the mercy of Lord Krishna and the Vaishnavas, he became a great devotee. Thus he became famous as Bilvamangal Thakur Goswami. On that elevated platform, he wrote a book named Caitanya-caritämrta, which is very famous amongst Vaishnavas. Since he exhibited so many ecstatic symptoms, people used to call him Lila Shuka. Text 80. During his previous pastimes in Vrindavan, Lord Krishna desired to enjoy the three different types of ecstasy, but despite great endeavor, he could not taste them. Such ecstasies are the monopoly of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, in order to taste them, Sri Krishna accepted the position of Srimati Radharani in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 81. By personally tasting the mellows of love of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught his direct disciples the process. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a wealthy capitalist, possessing the touchstone of love of God. Not considering whether one is a proper or improper recipient, he gives his treasure to anyone and everyone. Thus, he is the most munificent. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's capital is the touchstone of love of Godhead, and consequently, he is a great owner of that transcendental treasure. After making unlimited amounts of gold, the touchstone remains the same. Similarly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although distributing love of Godhead unlimitedly, still remained the supreme owner of this transcendental opulence. His devotees, who learned it from him, also had to distribute it munificently all over the world. This Krishna consciousness movement, following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his confidential devotees, is also trying to distribute love of Godhead all over the world through the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 82. No one Not even Lord Brahma can ascertain or even taste a drop of this confidential ocean of ecstasy. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his causeless mercy, has distributed this love of Godhead all over the world. Thus, there cannot be any incarnation more munificent than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no greater donor. Who can describe his transcendental qualities? Text 83. Such topics are not to be discussed freely, because if they are, no one will understand them. Such are the wonderful pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Unto one who was able to understand, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown mercy by giving him the association of the servant of his own servant. Purport. An ordinary person cannot understand the transcendental ecstasies in the mode of Srimati Radharani. Unfit persons who try to understand them are perverted into the Sahaja, Baula, and other sampradayas, apasampradayas actually. Thus, the teachings are perverted. Even learned scholars in the academic field cannot understand the transcendental bliss and ecstatic and ecstasy exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pure devotees. One must be fit to understand the purport of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. Text 84. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the topmost of jewels. They have been kept in the storehouse of Sarup Damodar Goswami, who has explained them to Raghunath Das Goswami, who has repeated them to me. Whatever little I have heard from Raghunath Das Goswami, I have described in this book, which is presented to all devotees. Purport. The activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were noted by his personal secretary, Sarup Damodar Goswami, and repeated to Raghunath Das Goswami, who memorized them. Whatever Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami heard is recorded in Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. This is called the Parampara system, from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sarup Damodar to Raghunath Das Goswami to Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has distributed this information in his book, Caitanya-caritämrta. In other words, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is the essence of the instruction given through the Parampara system of the disciplic succession stemming from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 85. If one says that Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is full of Sanskrit verses and therefore not understandable by a common man, I reply that what I have described are the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that for me to satisfy everyone is not possible. Purport. Srila Kaviraj Goswami and one who follows in his footsteps do not have to cater to the public. Shall I repeat that? Srila Kaviraj Goswami and one who follows in his footsteps do not have to cater to the public. Their business is simply to satisfy the previous acharyas and describe the pastimes of the Lord. One who is able to understand can relish this exalted transcendental literature, which is actually not meant for ordinary persons like scholars and literary men. Generally, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, recorded in the Caitanya-caritämrta, are studied in universities and scholastic circles from a literary and historical point of view, but actually, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is not a subject matter for research workers or literary scholars. It is simply meant for those devotees who have dedicated their lives to the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Text 86. In this Caitanya-caritämrta, there is no contradictory conclusion, nor is anyone else's opinion accepted. I have written this book to describe the simple substance as I have heard it from superiors. If I become involved in someone's likes and dislikes, I cannot possibly write the simple truth. I've got to read this again, don't mind. In this Caitanya-caritämrta, there is no contradictory conclusion, nor is anyone else's opinion accepted. I have written this book to describe this simple substance as I have heard it from superiors. If I become involved in someone's likes and dislikes, I cannot possibly write the simple truth. 286, Madhya-lila. Purport. The simplest thing for human beings is to follow their predecessors. Judgment, according to mundane senses, is not a very easy process. Whatever is awakened by attachment to one's predecessor is the way of devotional service, as indicated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The author says, however, that he cannot consider the opinions of those who become attracted or repelled by such things, because one cannot write impartially in that way. In other words, the author is stating that he did not inject personal opinion in the Caitanya-caritämrta. He has simply described his spontaneous understanding from superiors. If he had been carried away by someone's likes and dislikes, he could not have written of such a sublime subject matter in such an easy way. The actual facts are understandable to real devotees. When these facts are recorded, they are very congenial to the devotees, but one who is not a devotee cannot understand. Such is the subject matter for realization. Mundane scholarship and its concomitant attachments and detachments cannot arouse spontaneous love of Godhead. Such love cannot be described by a mundane scholar. Text 87. If one does not understand in the beginning, but continues to hear again and again, the wonderful effects of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes will bring love for Krishna. Gradually, one will come to understand the loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis and other associates of Vrindavan. Everyone is advised to continue to hear over and over again in order to greatly benefit. This is the process. And he's comparing it to the mundane scholarship to try to analyze and pick it apart, etc., etc. The process is to hear it again and again with an open heart, offenselessly, and take from superior authority the truth, the simple truth, and greatly benefit. Text 88. In reply to those critics who say that Sri Caitanya-caritämrta is full of Sanskrit verses, it can be said that Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of Sanskrit verses, as are the commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. Nonetheless, Srimad Bhagavatam can be understood by everyone, as well as by advanced devotees who study the Sanskrit commentaries. Why then will people not understand the Caitanya-caritämrta? There are only a few Sanskrit verses, and these have been explained in the Bengali vernacular. What is the difficulty in understanding? Text 89. I have already given a synopsis of all the facts and figures of Lord Chaitanya's, Mahaprabhu's last pastimes, and I have a desire to describe them elaborately. If I remain longer, and am fortunate enough to receive the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I shall try to describe them again, more elaborately. Text 90. I have now become too old and disturbed by invalidity. While I write, my hands tremble. While I write, my hands tremble. I cannot remember anything, nor can I see or hear properly. Still I write, and this is a great wonder. 91. In this chapter I have to some extent described the essence of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya at the end. If I die in the meantime and cannot describe them in detail, at least the devotees will have this transcendental treasure. 92. In this chapter I have briefly described the Madhya-lila. Whatever I have not described, I shall describe extensively in the future. If by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy I live for so many days that I can fulfill my desires, I will give full consideration to these pastimes. 93. I worship herewith the lotus feet of all kinds of devotees, both advanced and neophyte. I request all of them to be satisfied with me. I am faultless because I have written herein whatever I have understood from Sarup Damodar Goswami and Rupa and Raghunath Das Goswamis. I have neither added to nor subtracted from their version. Purport. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there are three kinds of devotees, known as Bhajana Bhigya, experts in devotional service; Bhajana Shila, devotees engaged in devotional service; and Krishna Nami Dikshita, Caitanya-caritämrta, initiated devotees engaged in chanting. Shall I read those again? Thank you. Okay, I will. All right. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there are three kinds of devotees. Listen up. Known as 1. Bhajana Bhigya, experts in devotional service; 2. Bhajana Shila, devotees engaged in devotional service; and Krishna Nami Dikshita Caitanya-caritämrta, initiated devotees engaged in chanting. The author of Sri Caitanya-caritämrta begs the mercy of all these devotees and asks them to be pleased with him. He says, let the neophyte devotees, the devotees who are very expert in arguing, though they have no sense of advanced devotional service, who think themselves very advanced because they imitate some smarta brahmana, let such devotees not be displeased with me, thinking that I have committed errors in this regard. I beg their pardon with great humility, but I am submitting that I personally have no desire to add or subtract anything. I have only written what I have heard in the disciplic succession, because I am dedicated to the lotus feet of previous acharyas, like Sarup Damodar, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Rupa Goswami. I have only written what I have learned from them. (94). Sorry. 94. According to the Parampara system, I wish to take the dust from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. I wish to take the dust of their lotus feet upon my head. In this way, I wish to be blessed with their mercy. Text 95. Receiving orders from the above authorities and the Vaishnavas of Vrindavan, especially from Haridas, the priest of Govindaji, I, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, have tried to describe one small particle of one drop of one wave of the ocean of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, Madhya-lila, 2nd chapter, describing the ecstatic manifestations of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jai Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jai Anjalila ki Jai, Srimati Radharani ki Jai, all the Brajvashis ki Jai, Swarup Damodar Goswami ki Jai, Ramananda Roy ki Jai, Raghunath Das Goswami ki Jai, Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki Jai, and all the hearers and readers of this Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki Jai. Well, pretty hard to follow that. My gosh. Imagine what he's writing is the simple truth. And simple doesn't mean simpleton. Simple means not to change it. It's the deepest, most enriched, most profound knowledge that exists, and yet is also the simplest. We're conditioned by material nature, and we think we become so complicated. Okay, now I'm at crossroads here. I want to let everyone know who doesn't know that tomorrow at 12 o'clock there's going to be a Zoom kind of party, I guess you could say. My birthday is tomorrow, and as hard as it is to say, what to speak of hard it is, as hard as it is to sit there and listen to all the things I have to hear tomorrow. It's my duty, I've been told by the persons who are organizing the thing. There's going to be hardly anybody here, obviously, because we're locked down here in Hythe, but 2 or 3 devotees are coming, and they're bringing Gorni Thai from the Folkestone Atma Lounge Preaching Center, ISKCON Preaching Center, and Srila Prabhupada, the beautiful Murti of Srila Prabhupada, nicest dressed Prabhupada deity, maybe in the movement, dressed by Shyam Gauri, the better half of Priya Kund Prabhu. And Rati Manjari is going to be the hostess with the mostess. And I'm just going to be a guest. I'm going to sit there and take it all in and Hare Krishna. So you're all invited, of course. And I'm not going to stop my daily readings in the evening because, you know, this is my life and soul. And all of you out there who come every day, or even if you're not live, you view it and appreciate it and take this nectar that's flowing out of the pen of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. We're at 7:50. I'm going to have a very, very big day tomorrow. And I would like to get to bed a little earlier tonight to have some extra energy to be able to carry me through tomorrow. It's Ekadashi. I was born on Ekadashi in the first day of Julan Yatra, which is very auspicious. I didn't know, of course, until I joined the movement, that was what it was. Anyway, more about that tomorrow. Hare Krishna. So I think I'll let the reading stop today so we can start on chapter 3 tomorrow, which is actually when the Madhya-lila actually takes off. We've so far just heard in the first 2 chapters of Madhya-lila synopsis of the Madhya-lila and the Anta-lila. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. The open mic is now armed. Abhaya Das Brahmachari is armed with the open mic and ready for the nectar to pour forth from the devotees. Hare Krishna. Did I do that okay? Was it okay? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Naresh Yadav was asking about the Zoom link. I mentioned in the comments that it's posted on the page itself.
Posted on what page?
The daily readings page.
Okay, where is it posted? On the daily readings page?
Just on the page itself, on the news feed.
On the news feed. Okay, so the Zoom link to the festivities which start tomorrow, it'll be 12 to 3. It's 3 hours. UK time, 12 noon to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the link, the Zoom link, is posted on the Daily Readings of Srila Prabhupada Facebook page on, what is it called? What is it called? The place? Huh?
News feed.
In the news feed.
On the wall. On the wall.
Huh?
Or on the wall.
Or on the wall.
Same thing.
I got no ideas about what these things mean. I'm on the other end of wrong end of a generation gap, in case you didn't notice it. Hare Krishna. 74 tomorrow. Oh. Who'd have thunk it, that it would ever happen? Oh, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, everybody is pretty much buzzed out by that last part of that last chapter. When Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami poured his heart out to his readers and described how he cannot compromise in order to try to please everyone. This is a very important thing for our movement. Very important. In our preaching, we should just try to please the previous acharyas and explain to people what they said without adding or subtracting anything, not worrying about whether they're going to be happy about it or not, or happy with it or not. Just speak the simple truth, and that will get the job done. Proof? Srila Prabhupada. He never compromised with anyone. Even he was being interviewed by the most important newspapers and magazines of the whole world when he went from airport to airport, and he would never compromise. He would say it like it is. When they asked him, why did you come here? He said, I came to give you what you have forgotten. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the person that everyone's worshipping in all the different religions, but they don't know who he is. And we're trying to give you the best gift. And he would say things like that, like straight on, flat, no compromise. Of course, he was a sweet, and not unbearably, but yeah, unbearably sweet personality, and therefore people they took it. I mean, sometimes they would put out what they considered sarcastic or negative propaganda. But Prabhupada would just read the article and he would count the number of times they said Hare Krishna, and he would say, oh, this article is very good. And if someone would print an article which all flattering about us, and he would count, he'd say, oh, this is not a very good article. I don't see Krishna anywhere. This is the vision of a liberated soul, a pure, absolutely pure devotee. And how he's able to give the nectar of the understanding of Krishna, Radha and Krishna, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all of their eternal associates, to those of us who have no qualifications whatsoever, is just absolutely inconceivable. But he did it. When I was living in Northern California in a very small town, 6,000 people, village boy, I had never even heard of the word of Krishna until after I was in university. Never even heard the word. And now, everyone, I mean, maybe not everyone understands everything about who he is, but Hare Krishna, people everywhere know about the Hare Krishnas, or at least a lot more than did before. And if you trace the trend, follow the trend, you'll see, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years from now, combined with all the chaos that's happening as a result of people breaking the laws of nature and trying to destroy the earth in the process. So many innocent people and honest people, they'll come to us for how to sort this out if we stay blissful. And how do we stay blissful? By chanting Hare Krishna and by hearing Srila Prabhupada's books constantly, or at least constantly we heard it defined as regularly, every day, or constantly. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is really churning the nectar, huh? Really churning the nectar.
One comment from Rati Manjari.
Hey Rati, Haribo.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. We are all excited to be able to join you live online for the beautiful occasion of celebrating your appearance in this world and into our lives. That is about all I can think about right now. I wish you a good and sound night of sleep and much bliss tomorrow.
Thank you very much. And with that blessing from Rati Manjari, I will bid you adieu, and I will see you tomorrow. Either I'll see you tomorrow at 12 or I'll see you tomorrow at 7. Shri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow noontime or tomorrow evening. Hare Krishna.